What's up, everybody? Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on the SKS podcast. Originally, I was going to make this just a, like a channel announcement thing or something like that, but I figured I hadn't done a podcast in a while, and it might give me a chance to just kind of chit-chat and kind of talk through a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to make an announcement that there won't be any more episodes this week. I didn't do any bulk recording, and I'm taking the week for the holiday week for Thanksgiving, not just to spend time with the family and all that kind of stuff and help out if they need it, but also I'm coming down to my own personal deadlines a little bit on my book, and I wanted to spend some time directly editing on it. I had signed up for like a special software thing that helps you try and polish things up and find some errors and things like that, and it was more economic to do like the trial version, which had a time constraint on it, so I'm going to try and make use of that as best that I can. The book is coming along very well. It's in, I would definitely say, kind of the final stretch in that I'm actively discussing cover art stuff with an artist, and I'm working with him to try and get the cover art done, and I will definitely be sending out or posting some kind of announcement video or something to reveal and talk about the cover art, and maybe do a little bit more discussing about the book topic and stuff in general. But I'm also doing another final kind of editing thing, working with a couple of other people to kind of second pair of eyes, that kind of thing, and stuff like that. So I'm done with my own personal editing now. I'm working with other people. So it's coming along. It's getting there. I don't think I will be hitting my December 1st release date that I initially wanted to. I'm shooting for the 15th tentatively, but some things are moving a bit slower, so I'm not 100% sure if that will actually go through. It'll just kind of depend on how fast things move and how productive I end up being. Partly why I wanted to take the time off from recording and focus on the book for the moment. I will be back the week after Thanksgiving, though. It was kind of just a double whammy, is that I didn't think anybody would really be surprised too much on a holiday week kind of thing. If I took time off from making videos, but afterwards, I'm not going to be like, not doing videos until the book comes out or something like that. I just figured I would kind of kill two birds with one stone. Gives me time off. It makes my schedule a bit more flexible for the holidays and for family and stuff, but also lets me get a little bit more work done on the book. So, I wanted to let everybody know that, and like I said, there were some other couple of things I wanted to bring up, like the book and stuff like that, so I figured I would just do another podcast episode, but, the book is coming along pretty well, though. I'm getting a little bit excited at this point, because it's less of a slog to work on and stuff. It's more of tinkering and fine-tuning, and also trying to, make some decisions and polish things off and stuff. Do you, do I want to do a glossary? Do I want to put it all in the book itself and write it in and things like that? Those types of decisions. It's less about what happens in this chapter and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully I'll have some more news about that within the coming weeks. You'll probably hear first about the cover art. Whenever that gets finished, I'll probably post a video when it's done, and so you guys get to see the final cover arts and things like that, in a kind of a get hyped type of thing, like it's getting close. But yeah, like I said, I'm shooting for a December 15th. I don't know. It's just one of those, it's easy to plan on paper, and then when you start doing stuff, things can take longer, or sometimes shorter, but a lot of times longer than you expect and things. So especially trying to balance the hustle and bustle of the holidays and things like that too. There'll probably be other areas where I need to take more time off and actually be off and not be working on things and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if it'll make the 15th or not. That's my current release date in my head to keep myself on track, but if I get close to that mark and realize I'm not close enough, it may end up being, first of the year area in January or something like that. But I don't see it taking more than another month or two at most. It's possible, but I don't see it because there's not that much more else that I need to do on it. It's mostly just polish, ironing, tweaking, tinkering, minor details and things like that. But so yeah, the only other, setback I could see is I've mentioned it before. I haven't really been shy about it that, I've co-developed this world with, Caden Red Pearl. So if there's anything, his schedule's been really crazy, but when he gets around to analyzing the book and stuff, if there's anything that, we need to change to make the world continuity work, then that would add some time to it, but I don't see that happening. So, like I said, probably within the next couple months is where I'm very comfortable saying at least the next couple months. I'd be a little more pressured and unsure if it was like December 15th that's coming out. Don't really know if I'll make that, but saying within, January, maybe February, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with that assessment. So I would definitely keep your eyes open for that. But yeah, so like I said, I will be I also will try and kind of keep up with my comments and things like that as best I can. But I don't plan on putting out any more episodes. Normally I'd be recording them today, but if everything goes well, this episode will be going up today, on Monday. And so there won't be a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday like normal. But next Tuesday, after Thanksgiving, then the first episode should be back to the Reverse Engineer series. As to what gets picked and whatnot, it will probably still come off of the last episode, much like the inspiration episodes may or may not have anything that's right at the beginning of the week, because I hit a bit of a snag with the 200th episode of Inspiration series because I didn't post anything new. And in every episode, I would always leave the poll for you guys to pick which one you wanted reverse engineered. But because I didn't have anything new, I had to pick from 3 for it to be reverse engineered. But at the same time, then those were not featured in the inspiration episode, which I would have liked to. So it's kind of a cat and mouse game or cat chasing his own tail kind of thing, where I'm trying to figure out, do I postpone the newer stuff that's being posted that week and just come back to the ones that I wanted to use but didn't, or do I just skip over those and go back and pick ones from the current selection? And I think a lot of that will just come down to what's available on the workshop, and if it just looks that much cooler, then I may just have to cut those, and they were just for reverse engineering kind of thing. So it'll be a little bit of a rocky. I mentioned that in the inspiration and reverse engineers episodes. But I just kind of wanted to reiterate it for anybody that wasn't paying attention or something, or didn't hear that part or something like that, the first couple episodes coming back off of the 200th one will be a little bit rocky to try and get the flow back to where it was kind of thing. But yeah, so there is that. That's kind of the probably overall channel announcement type things that I wanted to go over. Mainly just to let everybody know I wouldn't be recording, so not to expect any new episodes, and that the book's coming along pretty good, and I'm hoping that it'll be out by the end of the year, but it's possible it's the first part of next year or something like that. I'm trying not to let it bug me too much, because I set a lot of release dates for projects. Dog Squad! And they don't always hold up. You're like, I'm going to work on it this, and then, 3 years later, it's still not done. So I don't like moving release dates, because then I feel like I'm just not getting enough done. When I made them in the first place, I planned out how much I needed to work on them. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Things just can take longer than you expected, but it frustrates me when I feel like I expected correctly and I'm just not putting in the correct amount of time or effort because I'm, tired or don't want to work on it or something. It's like, no. No, you said you're... So anyways, I hope not to have to shift the release date, but I'm also not really holding my breath that I won't either. So I like being upfront with everybody. I've seen very much, and it's become very much of a trend lately of people being very upset when their expectations aren't met kind of thing. So I try and be very transparent in schedules and release dates and things like that, so that nobody gets really excited and then, it didn't happen. But so yeah. But it's been kind of fun the last couple weeks as far as it's been kind of exciting. I usually use my podcast stuff tends to get eaten up by channel announcements and things lately because there's been a lot of activity, but I would like to use the podcast a bit more just as a way to have kind of a conversation, albeit not live, I guess, but it's still a conversation about other random things that are either game, entertainment, that kind of things that are kind of relevant. I did see the announcement for Astroneer. Some of you may not have noticed it, but there was a announcement that I believe it's February 19th of 2019 that they announced that they're coming out of early access and they're going to version 1, which I'm super excited about. I haven't played it in a long time. I actually reinstalled it just the other day because I was getting a little itchy and I was kind of like, I wonder if they're, have they updated it? Have they done anything with it? And the trailer looks really good. The world environments and stuff look a lot more diverse than they did before. And so I'm kind of excited. I may, again, don't want to get anybody too excited, but I'm kind of itchy that I may end up bringing back Astroneer for at least short series, just for a while, unless it really takes off and people like it. Just on the sort of... on the release kind of thing, kind of like I did with Subnautica. I think I did one with Subnautica where they went full released, and I started a new season of it. I don't think I finished that though. Now that I think about it, did I do one? I don't actually remember if I did a release Subnautica series or if it was still all in beta. I can't remember. You guys have to let me know. I know Subnautica fans are definitely in the channel. That was actually a very surprising hit on my channel. I was like, I'm doing all this space stuff, Empyrean and Astroneer, No Man's Sky, all this stuff, and I'm like, Subnautica's like all water-based. It's not space. Nobody's gonna like that. It ended up being like one of the second or third highest viewed series on my channel or something. And I was like, and I'll never forget it. I did actually have a couple comments that were like, when I came back with Subnautica, that it was like, I took a break from it for a while and then came back and started doing it again. And, I'll never forget that I had, a couple of comments like, the one true Let's Play is back. And I was like, oh my gosh, somebody actually sees my Let's Play? That important? That's crazy. Especially since I watched a lot of other YouTubers that I looked up to that would play that, and I'm like, they're doing it too, But so that was very flattering, and I've always remembered that comment. I don't remember who it was by or anything like that or when, but it always kind of stuck with me. But yeah, so because Astroneer is coming out of early access, I may, if I feel pushed enough, or if everybody comments and says I want to enough, if I feel like there's enough of a demand for it, I may come back and try it for a bit. Though I have to admit, I know a lot of people probably get the impression, especially new viewers, when all I'm doing is space engineers on my channel and stuff. I'm sure a lot of newer viewers and things, newer subscribers, are probably under the semi-incorrect impression that I'm all about space games and stuff and don't really do other genres. I'm actually way more of an RPG person in real life than space and sandboxes and stuff like that. I mean, I've always played Minecraft ever since it got really popular, and I've been addicted to Minecraft ever since Baseplay KG and Adrian Wannafly introduced me to like Feed the Beast and stuff, when I realized there is no limit to what this game can do. But I do get burned out on it. Like, you'll play it for a while and then it's like, okay, I gotta take a break from it. And then it's like 6 months, a year later, something will happen. It's a movie you watch or a game you see and you're kind of like, I kind of got the itch to go back to Minecraft, I'm very, for those of you that don't know, I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm very mood dependent on my gaming and stuff, that I get into a genre mood and then I'll be playing like 3 or 4 games that are all in the same theme. Like, like right now, I'm actually in a really, really big fantasy magic mode at the moment, or mood. I've been playing a ton of Skyrim. I went back and started playing Dragon Age Inquisition again. What was the other one I started back up? I can't remember. Oh, I reinstalled Oblivion, and I was gonna do like a huge mod overhaul so Oblivion actually looked a little bit better than it does, and go back and play Oblivion, mainly just because I played Skyrim so much and I haven't played Oblivion in a while. Skyrim I have on Switch now, I have on PS3, I have it on PC, and I don't personally own it, but my dad has it on PS4, and so when I'm actually after like the trophies on PlayStation, then I'll borrow the PS4 copy. So I have it on like almost every platform that I own. I mean, it's not on my phone yet, and I don't have an Alexa, so. Side note, if I had an Alexa, I would totally play Skyrim on Alexa just because it sounds so hilarious to me. But yeah, so after playing it back to back to back like that, a few times, I know Skyrim very well, and Oblivion I know even better, but it's been years since I went back and actually did like a playthrough of it and really dove in. So, and then of course, as soon as you pull it up, you're like, ooh, I need some mods to make this look better. So I've been in a super fantasy, creature magic kind of mode, and it didn't help anything that the new Fantastic Beasts movie came out. And so I've been watching the Harry Potter movies and stuff like that in preparation to going to see the new one, which I have to admit this. I know movies and especially older franchises that are kind of doing these side prequel, reboot, spin-offs, continuation, those kinds of things where they were a fan favorite franchise and now we're going back to them and trying to do more in them. I know that the fan reactions have not been very pleasant for some of these movies, aka Last Jedi and stuff like that. And apparently now Crimes of Grindelwald is having a similar issue where a lot of the fans and critics are mixed, though it sounds a bit more like critics might be a little bit more mixed than fans. From everything I've heard online, fans seem to be mostly okay with it, and if not, like, excited and like it. But critically, I know it hasn't been that well received. Maybe not as badly as polarizing as, like, Last Jedi was, but I don't know if I'm gonna turn, if you ask Caden Red Pearl, one of my best friends of all time, he would not really dub me an optimist or an eternal optimist. Actually, he's more of an eternal optimist kind of thing. I'm more of what I consider a realist, in that I like to think I'm not pessimistic, but I tend to lean towards pessimism sometimes when all the evidence is that way. It's something I'm working on because it hasn't exactly really made for the most cheeriest of outlooks and stuff, so I'm trying to be a bit more optimistic. But when it comes to movies and stuff, I don't know if I see the good in them and I'm excited for a new movie or what, but I often see movies and games and stuff come out and I'm like excited, I'm happy with them, and then you go like check the reviews and comments on YouTube videos and forums and articles and things, and like everyone's just like losing their mind and they're so mad about everything, and I'm kind of like, I thought it was good, and I was kind of in the same boat with Crimes of Grindelwald, that I only saw it once, and we saw it opening night, and there is the aspect of opening night bias, or opening night glasses, as I like to call them, kind of like rose-colored glasses. I did the same thing. This was the one that really introduced me to opening night glasses. Transformers 2: Revenge of the Fallen. We went to see that movie opening night, and by we, I mean, like, my brother and a couple of our friends and stuff like that. We all took this big group. I think it was like 11 of us or something, and we went to see it opening night. And we walked out of there talking about how it was like the best Transformer movie ever. Within a week, I watched it again, and it all of a sudden turned into the worst Transformer movie of all time. And to the point now that I didn't even go see last night in theaters. I ended up like game flying it or renting it or something, and I was just like, I am so satisfied that I did not go spend money on this movie because it was terrible. And so I've learned the value of opening night glasses, that every movie can seem amazing when you're in that opening night excitement and energy kind of thing. I don't think that's what happened with Grindelwald. I had a pretty open point of view, to the point that I was even seeing flaws while we were watching the movie. Like, I was pointing out that was kind of odd logic thing. And I do have to say, I think trying to write my own world, whether it be books, games, whatever, just creating your own world, did give me a bit of an appreciation for what a creator has to go through to create all of the intricacies, all the continuity, all of the timelines. And so I'm a little bit more forgiving than I used to be about that. I used to nitpick everything to death, and I could tell you like every flaw in a movie that I watched. But as I grew further into being my own creator, I started thinking, is it really important that everything be perfect, or does the vibe get it right? You know, like for me, if the movie is fun, I enjoyed it, I walked out happy and entertained, then some of the little logical fallacies or nitpicks, I'm like, they're there, but I don't really care. The prime example of that was Force Awakens. Force Awakens, I walked out thrilled with. I loved that movie, and I'm still pretty happy about it, even after the opening night glasses thing. I still really enjoyed that movie. I will say, I really did like Last Jedi on opening night. I watched it later. I still do not think it's as bad as everybody thinks it is. They talk about it being the franchise killer and that they've ruined Star Wars, and I'm like, I don't really see how, but okay, you know. And a lot of people would say, well, you're not a Star Wars fan. No, I am. You can ask Caden. I have talked to him for 3 hours in one sitting explaining to him Knights of the Old Republic. I'm definitely a Star Wars fan. I just didn't see some of the errors they saw. They thought it was a big deal, and I was like, I don't think it's a problem. Like, I don't think it'll really, like, a lot of people came back with, like, Luke shouldn't have been all mopey and depressed and stuff, and I was like, actually, it made sense to me. I was expecting them to go that route. Actually, when they talked about, when they teased Force Awakens and said that he's missing, and he went off and he was like hiding somewhere, I was like, yeah, no, he probably had something bad happen, and then he feels inadequate, and can I really do this, or, you know, blah, 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 which is kind of what they ended up doing. So I was kind of expecting them to do it that way. I thought it flowed very naturally. And then when everyone was freaking out, this isn't Luke Skywalker, and blah, 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 I was like, I think it's fine. I don't think it's really a problem. It works, you know. So it's not that there are not issues. There are issues. It was like the biggest one for Force Awakens that everybody used was that it was basically a New Hope 2.0. And I don't disagree. It was very a New Hope-ish. Even down to the Star Killer base being another planet, round sphere planet killer. You know, it's another Death Star. They even say that in the movie, that it's another Death Star. The thing that, like I said, coming back to did you enjoy it? That's the thing. I came out of it going, yes, it's kind of a New Hope remake, and that's fine. Like, it was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. It was good. It was more Star Wars. It was more of the action. It was more of the lightsabers and Force stuff. They're expanding the Force. They're going into new territory. So I was like, yeah, no, I don't really care that it's a New Hope again. It was fine. Actually, I thought it was a better... This is going to sound weird. I'm not a big fan of A New Hope. I thought it was probably the most boring of the Star Wars because they hadn't really gotten to do anything yet. It was all like setup stuff. And frankly, being the oldest made, it has the most technical issues in terms of visuals and stuff like that, and spectacle. But for me, A New Hope was like the most dull. I was like, I mean, it's Star Wars, it's fun, but I like it the least, probably. Not because it's bad, I just find it uninteresting. There's just not as much that happens in A New Hope that excites me. And so I will say, I recognize where people were coming from with Force Awakens, but I actually think it did A New Hope better than A New Hope, if that makes sense. So I was fine with it. So I think there's kind of a dichotomy there of finding what's important, not just freaking out over everything that, you know, seems like they did it wrong. And I think the same thing with Grindelwald. Mild spoiler alerts. I will keep it very spoiler-esque, limited. For those of you that haven't seen it, I realize it's a fairly new movie. But there are things that get implied. I'll leave it at that to avoid spoilers. Those who have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Again, be nice, avoid spoiling stuff in the comments if you can help it, but there are things, especially towards the end of the movie, again, you guys that have seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, there are some things that get implied, that do jack with the established timeline, or not really jack, they just confuse, because it doesn't line up with what we knew in certain areas, like, and not even so much information, but timing. I was reading an article the other day about how basically the books talked about the same events the movies talked about or were referencing, but yet it was done at like a different year. Like the timing has been moved up and stuff. So it's things like that where it's getting some people confused and concerned and stuff. And so it's like there's little things like that, but I still thought it was a great movie. And I also will say I read a few weeks ago, before the movie actually came out, I read a few weeks ago that they were being very candid about the movie being like the second one in like 5. Like they have a bunch of them planned. And that changed how I went into it. My brother actually wasn't aware of that, and he said he felt a little bit like not let down, but surprised. Like we were going through the movie and it was fun, but I was waiting for more closure to like wrap it up. And they were just continuing and continuing, and there was no end in sight. And that's when he kind of was like, they're gonna end this on like a sequel ending that leads into another one. And when we were talking about it after the movie, I'm like, well, yeah, they're gonna do 5 of them. And he was like, oh, I didn't know that, So, that does change how I went into it. So maybe that's why I'm a little bit more not concerned, because some people are like freaking out over they've ruined the timeline and this doesn't, and I'm like, they've got 3 more movies to iron it out and make it work. And so I'm not too concerned about them introducing big plot point continuity errors or anything, because you got 3 more movies. Even if you take the feedback from this one and go, okay, well, we'll make some alterations along the way or something. But if you walk in from a writer like Rowling that they're no novice at writing. I mean, they've done it before. And when they walk in going, we're going to do 5 of them, I have to think they have a plan. Like they have an idea of where the story is going to go and how it's going to work. So I can't really see them introducing something that can't be fixed or isn't already in the works to be fixed. So it's things like that I think people jump all over, and rather than just enjoying the movie for what it is. It's like Infinity War. I've heard a lot of people talk about, it didn't have much of an ending. And I'm like, well, when they announced the movie, they announced it as part 1, part 2, and then they changed it saying they'll be their standalones, but it still felt like a part 1, part 2. So going in with that mindset, I think helps. To expect it not to be an encapsulated standalone thing, but to continue a storyline and build towards a bigger storyline kind of thing. And so some of that stuff, like I said, I'm kind of explaining my point of view because I'm trying to identify why some of this doesn't bother me when movies come out. I'm like, yeah, I thought it was good. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, the franchise, what's gonna happen? And I'm like, I thought it was good. What's the problem? I don't get it. And I started realizing this with No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky was the first introduction I had to my difference in reception from the seemingly rest of the internet. And I will say this. I'm not pointing fingers at people in specific as far as if you guys respond with, no, they're all just crazy, we don't think that either. That's fine. I'm just talking about the vocal people that end up tweeting things and posting on blogs and making these 40-minute rant videos about how they've ruined the franchises and things like that. It's like, I don't really see where they're coming from. Even when I see their point, it's not that I'm fan blinded or something. It's like, I see some of the errors and what they're talking about. I just don't think it'll be that big of a problem, or there's things like accepting that they are a fictional story made by people. Some of the errors with Star Wars and things that people bring up, I'm like, these weren't intentional things. It's because they were made in the 70s. So some of the things they wanted to do, they couldn't quite do, so it got altered, or they didn't know it was going to be a big thing at the time, so they didn't plan ahead. Things like that. You do kind of have to accept that they are made by people and they are movies, and it's falls victim to the industry and the way that it works. In the medium. And I don't think a lot of people see it that way. That's like, this is a living, breathing world, and you're dropping a bomb on this world and you're going to ruin it. And it's like, well, there may be errors and things, but people are not infallible. So even writers can, oh man, I forgot that was supposed to be a year before that. Even they can mess their own stories up. So I don't know. Like I said, maybe it comes from being an aspiring writer myself. But over the years, I've gotten far less critical over movies based on how I react to them. There are irreconcilable logical flaws that I see in some movies, and those are like Transformers I mentioned. It's like The Last Knight is just a bad movie. It's like there may be some people out there that would disagree and say it's a great action movie and stuff, but especially if you know anything about the Transformers lore and stuff, it's like they just it's I just don't know what they're thinking half the time. I mean, again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it and care. I mean, there's that. But okay, so this is going out to the people that grew up with the original Transformers series that started it all. And I mean, I know that it started as action figures and comic books and things, and then they made a series on. But like the first cartoon series, Unicron was a giant Cybertronian planet that ate other planets. Okay, and in this Last Knight movie, they made Unicron Earth. That's all I have to say. I mean, that point alone to any Transformers fan is going to make them go, huh? You know, what? You know, those kinds of things. Yeah, that's like, I don't know what they were thinking. That was bad. Now, Bumblebee, on the other hand, that looks freaking awesome. I cannot wait to see Bumblebee. It's like they're wiping the slate and doing what they should have done from the beginning. I got goose pimples everywhere when in the Bumblebee trailer they showed a Cybertronian shot of Prime with the smokestacks on his arm and Shockwave in his purple Cyclops getup with his blaster arm and Soundwave clicking the button and Ravage popping out of his chest. I lost my mind. I text my brother almost immediately and was like, you have to see this, you know. So that's an example of the same franchise, but like one's been done correctly and one's, I don't know what they were thinking, you know, type of thing. So it's not that movies can't be bad. I'm not saying that. And it's definitely not something that I can't recognize flaws in movies. I even said, like with Star Wars, Force Awakens is kind of a New Hope 2.0. Last Jedi, I will not agree that it's like the worst thing to ever happen to the franchise and it's blah, 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 blah. I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was good. I will say the whole Kento Bite thing with, I think that's how you're supposed to say it, with Finn and Rose, even when I saw it the first time, didn't really feel that was necessary. It kind of felt tacked on to give them something to do because they weren't really being used in the main plot point. And it let them go. Since the rest of the movie kind of revolved around the spaceship pursuit, I think it was almost the obligatory show some new planet we haven't seen before. And so there's that kind of stuff. But again, it kind of felt more like the industry involvement than a logical error or something. Because that's the thing. Looking at it logically from the character's point of view, it made sense. They were trying to help. They were trying to do something. They were trying to find out how to do things. The one, I forget her name, but the one Admiral Holdo, I think was her name, you know, didn't tell Poe the plan. So then he's taking in because he can't sit it out. He can't sit on his hands, which was kind of the point she was trying to make by sidelining him. But anyways, was trying to prove it to him that he couldn't follow orders. But, you know, that whole thing started, and from a character-driven point of view, their logic would have made sense. You know, the Deus Ex Machina of they find a guy who wasn't the guy they were looking for, who just happened to be able to do the same thing, that's a little weak. That was fairly convenient. You know, again, it kind of was a Deus Ex Machina of this didn't work out, but we just happened to find this other solution. And I personally didn't really like the style of it, if I'm going to be honest. I think it was too earthly, if I may. That the architecture, their attire, the gambling casino style, it didn't seem very sci-fi enough to me for it to be in Star Wars. It seemed more like Earth with some futuristic tech and stuff. So I was kind of like, it almost felt a bit odd because Star Wars is known for doing things that are so far away from that aesthetic that to be that close to earthly aesthetic, it actually felt a little jarring. So from a character point of view, I don't think it logically didn't make sense. A lot of people are like, oh, this is a huge plot hole. It's not really a plot hole. I just don't think it fit. It's not really that from a character point of view, them trying to do something that, to help and to save everybody. That makes sense to me. And them trying to find the hacker, and they didn't find one, but then they found another one that could do, it's like, from their point of view, you have to think of it, yes, it was rendered irrelevant that they didn't really end up serving much of a purpose, but much like in the way we don't know what we're going to do in our lives ahead of time, they can't know that what they're planning wasn't going to work and wasn't going to matter, So from a storyline, what would a character do in this situation? I didn't see it as a plot hole. I just felt like it didn't really make a lot of sense. It was like, not sense, that's the wrong word. It didn't feel right. It didn't make sense in the terms of, I didn't like the environment. It felt like, you could have found something better for them to do and write it a little bit differently. But as far as logical plot point, I didn't see it as a plot hole. It just didn't work as well as it should have. I felt it was kind of tacked on, and but again, would that ruin the franchise? No, I don't think it was that bad of a movie. I thought it was really good. I especially love the expansion of the Force. I know a lot of fans, for some reason, didn't like that, like they were violating some code, and they really weren't. Especially, now the one thing I will say is, if you only watch the old movies, if you only watch, or even the new ones, if you just watch the Lucas, I guess it would be considered an anthology, but the 6 Lucas movies, and that's all Star Wars you've ever experienced, well, first of all, I kind of find it funny that then they would criticize Star Wars fans if they've read the books and things for having more. Anyways, but if that's all you've ever read, I could see how that might be jarring, that you're like, oh, none of this ever happened in the movies kind of thing. That's kind of true, but if you read all the books and the expanded universe and all that kind of stuff, the Force got nuts. I mean, just read the Knights of the Old Republic books. Like, just that franchise right there. The Knights of the Old Republic series, the ones that... oh, no, the other one is Bane. If you read the Bane trilogy, which I actually think was written by the same guy that wrote for Knights of the Old Republic, which is why they kind of has a similar vibe. The Bane trilogy, the Revan books, the Knights of the Old Republic, the Force will take on an entirely different meaning for you than if all you've ever watched is the original and prequel trilogy. I mean, there's thought bombs, there's... mental possessions, there's infiltrating the mind, there's dreams, there's force visions, there's force projections, I think at one point Bane even makes like a force maelstrom, so it's like, yeah, no, the Force, you're putting it in a box if you don't think Luke could project himself across the galaxy. That's totally viable, and I had no idea why everybody got all upset about that one. I was like, makes perfect sense. And it actually made perfect sense that it would kill him too, because that would be an enormous amount of strain on somebody who had been trying not to use the Force and cut himself off and everything. That, that's like not ever working out, or having stopped working out for 10 years, and then you just decide to go run a triathlon. You could literally have a heart attack from that. So yeah, that's what I meant by some of the arguments that I've heard. I'm like, I've never dressed up in a Jedi robe and gone to Comic-Con, and I haven't waited outside in line in tents for 3 days before the movies came out. But as far as getting wrapped up and enraptured with the world and sucked into it, yeah, no, I'm a fan. I'm definitely a Star Wars fan. So as a fan, when I heard all this backlash from it and everything, and then heard the arguments, heard what everybody was saying about it, I was like, I don't get why this is a big deal. It's like, this is not really a problem. So anyways, not to turn it into a Star Wars rant, but I was actually meant to talk about Grindelwald, which I did a little bit, but then I did realize I didn't want to talk too much about it, because it is fairly new. And so for those of you that haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it for you. But yeah, Grindelwald was, and I have to admit this, I love Grindelwald so much more than Voldemort. My brother and I were having this conversation because we actually were just going back and watching the Deathly Hallows and stuff because we were kind of in a Harry Potter mode and there wasn't any more movies to watch. We're like, I want Fantastic Beasts 3 now. I want to know what happens. But I find Grindelwald far more menacing than Voldemort ever was. And I think my brother hit it on the head. He told me, he was like, I see Voldemort as a child that is very powerful. And when he doesn't get his way, he throws a temper tantrum and kills a bunch of people. Grindelwald is like an evil Dumbledore, that he's smart and cunning and manipulative and a planner. He's like, and he also hit the nail on the head when my brother described him as the Moriarty to Dumbledore's Sherlock. I thought that was a perfect example. He does have he even has a kind of a Moriarty look, actually, with the mustache and the hair and stuff. Anyways, you put a little monocle on him, and he would probably pass as a Moriarty. But I do agree with that sentiment. I definitely and it is kind of ironic that Jude Law played Watson. Go figure. But I do think that that Jude Law, his Dumbledore, and Grindelwald definitely come off as like a Sherlock Moriarty pair kind of thing, as in that they're kind of like the only people that are on each other's level. But it's interesting because you always grew up with Dumbledore as being kind of this beast who was always one step ahead of Voldemort and stuff. Even after, he dies, he still has plans set in motion to defeat Voldemort and stuff. Whereas as Grindelwald is like, he's on par with him in terms of machinations and plans and all this kind of stuff. And I thought that was far more intimidating than Voldemort ever was. And I really liked Johnny Depp as him. I thought he did a great job with kind of balancing that likable, and you can see why people would join him because he's charismatic, but also in certain moments he can be really menacing kind of thing. When he needs to be, especially, again, no spoilers, but especially towards the climax of the movie when the action stuff starts getting more involved. You get a pretty good idea as to why the ministry and stuff is kind of concerned that Grindelwald's out and about. I'll put it that way. That's as spoiler-free version as I can put that without getting into spoiler territory, but I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fun. Newt, I think, is another diamond in the rough that I think Dumbledore has kind of picked on purpose. I don't think that's random, and I don't think that it's just because of Newt's personality. This is in the trailer, so I don't feel like it's spoilery, but it says something when the Ministry goes to Dumbledore saying, you're the only one on his level, we need your help, and he's like, I can't fight him. And then Dumbledore goes to Newt and says, I can't move on Grindelwald, it has to be you. That should tell you something about Newt's abilities when Dumbledore is like, well, if I'm the only other person that can take him, you're going to have to do it. Not the Ministry, not this person, just Newt. It's like, I think he's a lot more OP than anybody realizes, just because he kind of strikes me as the I don't want to get involved type, not that he lacks the ability. And I think there were certain aspects of this movie that kind of gave glimpses of that may actually be the case, that he does always seem to have, he kind of reminds me of Dumbledore a little bit, actually. He always has a trick up his sleeve. He never seems entirely defenseless or completely caught off guard. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, and I definitely see the setup of what they're trying to do, and I'm very intrigued by where they're going with it and what other plot twists and reveals and stuff they have moving forward. But having said that, all of the with the Harry Potter movie coming out, the Fantastic Beasts 2, I had been watching the Harry Potter movies in preparation, and then I watched the first one, the Fantastic Beasts one, I mean, and then the new one came out, and it's like I've just been left in this like fantasy magic area. So I've found myself playing a lot of these, like Skyrim and Dragon Age and all this, trying to kind of scratch the itch, so to speak. And part of that is also because I was one of the other people that has, like many of you have heard of the recent rumors going around and subsequent leakage of footage that implies that in a couple of years we may be getting a full-fledged Harry Potter RPG, which would be awesome. That would be really cool. Actually, I mentioned it not too long ago to a friend of mine that I said, out of all of the genres that they've tried to do with Harry Potter stuff, why haven't they done The Sims? I don't get it. That's the perfect setup. You could do a straight up Hogwarts Sims where you have to go to class just like you have to go to work. You have to do this. Your skill level would determine your grade, which determines your I mean, they could even incorporate the Sims 3, what was it, World Adventures, like tomb rating and stuff like that. They could even incorporate that into it. So I was like, why haven't they never done The Sims? I feel the same way with Star Wars. They should do a Star Wars The Sims. It would actually be kind of funny to have a semi-comical Sims-like vibe and then do a Star Wars, like being the evil villain in the career path kind of thing. You could be like a Sith Lord or an Emperor. I think it'd be great. But I based on the leaked footage and what I saw, I would totally take the RPG for Harry Potter. You guys know I've been, like I said, I'm not shy about it. I'm a straight up RPG fan. It's one of my favorite genres, if not my favorite genre of game. So when they were like full-fledged third-person action RPG for Harry Potter, I'm like, yes. Where do I sign up? That would be awesome. So yeah, all that I'm definitely in a Harry Potter mood. And a magic mood. But yeah, so I think that'll wrap up. I actually got to do a podcast that wasn't entirely about channel announcements. I'm kind of excited. And let me know if you guys want to hear more of that. If you want me to do more podcasts about more entertainment type things like movies and games that have come out that I'm playing or nitpicking or thinking or analyzing, things like that. If you want to hear more about that, let me know. I never really think my opinion really matters that much, so if you guys want to hear it, I'll do more of it. But otherwise, I'm going to wrap things up here for this episode. Again, there won't be any more videos for the week of the Thanksgiving week. However, the week after, I should be coming back on Tuesday. So with that, keep an eye out for more book announcements and things like that, but we're going to wrap things up here. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace.